Hello everyone, good evening, and welcome to LoreLink on Twitch and on YouTube, where we're streaming today. It's good to hear from everybody. And I am going to be doing something a little bit different today. I'm going to start a brand new campaign in LoreLink for Pendragon. So I have here with me the Pendragon starter set, and we're going to play around with that. I have played Pendragon as a player a number of times. I love it. It's absolutely wonderful, but I've never run a game. And quite frankly, I got the starter set like a year ago and haven't really played with it at all. So I did review it just a little bit in preparation for the stream, but we're going to kind of go through and figure it out together just a little bit. So thanks for being here. And let's take a look. What I have here is the Book 1, The Adventure of the Sword and the Stone. And this is a SoloQuest adventure, which means that it is specifically to kind of play on your own and or figure out what Pendragon is for the first time. So in their notes, the adventure takes place in the fantastical world of Pendragon, the role-playing game, which is set in the time of Arthurian legend in England. So it, depending on how you want to run your game, it can run either more historical or more fantastical. You can kind of go in both directions with it. I've done both types of games. They're both wonderful. One of the things that's super interesting about Pendragon is that you tend to not necessarily expect a large amount of life expectancy. So when you're creating your characters, you create like the entire family. You are going to potentially create an entire lineage as part of the setup. And so your character is going to go out and you're going to have adventures. And this happens over the course of a year. So you'll have spring, summer, fall, and then you're going to spend time in your castle or keep or home or whatever over the winter. And then it's kind of your downtime period. And if you die on one of your adventures, then you're going to pick up an uncle or a cousin or a son or whatever to play as the next character that you're going to continue with. And you pick them up, you flesh out their details, and you start playing as them. And you can end up with these really cool stories as part of going through that process and doing that. So here in the SoloQuest, it does do a little bit of a reminder of how this plays. There are only two types of dice used in Pendragon, a d20 and a d6. You use d20 to resolve actions, as well as test your character's morals and beliefs in times of crisis. So that's a fun one. And then the d6 is most often used to determine damage in combat. So there's a number of traits in the character sheet. I'm gonna showcase it there just a little bit. But they're on a sliding scale. So your trait will be between fully chaste and fully lustful, for example, or fully merciful and fully cruel, fully prudent and fully reckless. I think we know which direction I tend to go with my characters on that one, but you know, details. That means that as you're going, you might play a little bit more one way or the other. These things may adjust over time, but at some point in time, it's based a little bit about how you role play it. But then at some point in time, we're going to test that. How are things actually going to go during the course of the game? So I have here The Adventure of the Sword and the Stone, which is, let's see if I can find the introduction here in the book for you. Following sections to get oriented. Yes. This adventure serves as an introduction to the world of Pendragon and the game's mechanics. Players and game masters alike may read it. It also sets up the events of the first scenario of Book 3, The Adventure of the Sword Tournament, and provides an alternative viewpoint of one of that scenario's key moments. Okay. So it's really just intended to give you a taste. Again, it's part of that initial starter set. This is for the 6th edition of Pendragon specifically. I have over on my shelf a number of 5th edition books and have played primarily 5th edition previously. But this is all 6th edition, so this is all new for me. So, reading in here, The Adventure of the Sword and the Stone. All right, let's go ahead and switch to Lorelink and go ahead and create a new campaign for this. And this is Dragon 6th edition. That's all I'm going to bother with right now. That'll get me into this campaign. So one of the things that's interesting about Pendragon is things do tend to happen in terms of scenes or sequences or years or periods of time. So looking at, based upon that, so I'm going to skip the setup for just a second, but when I come into the timelines feature here, this is something that I expect that I'm going to use a lot in Pendragon. So you'll note that I mentioned earlier that a lot of Pendragon games are played over the course of a year, spring, summer, fall. You're going to do things each of those seasons, and then you're going to overwinter. We are going to want to probably reflect that on a timeline, and so we're going to build things out over time. Let's see here. If I go to the as appendix, I'm looking through the box really quickly. That's not going to help me. So in the full 5th edition book, there are, and in some of the resources, there's like background history. So I have, I don't even know, 20, 30 PDFs from 5th edition. I reviewed some of those in the past week. And so they actually lay back some of the history, some of the things that are going around this time period. So that's something, for example, I might want to put on a timeline to anchor my players as to where they are, right? So that I can review all that and understand where we fit into the chronology of history, and then we can add a little bit of detail to like the seasons and everything as well on top of that. Now, this adventure, the way it is written, is kind of written like, as most solo adventures are, written a bit like a choose your own adventure. So you're going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, but at the bottom of some of these, you're going to have to make a choice, and based on that choice, you're going to go somewhere. So I am trying to decide here. I feel like probably the correct way to do this is to set these up as individual events. We're going to try it. I don't know. I don't have a clear vision for how to do this yet. And one of the things that's important to me as far as kind of demonstrating on the stream how we create campaigns and put them into Lorelink is that it is a little bit of trial and error. Like a lot of times when I'm doing my stream to show off how I'm putting my Pathfinder campaign in, I have already done the work before I ever started streaming of kind of figuring out how I wanted to lay things out. Also, Pathfinder lends itself well to the location system, for example, and in a locations heavy campaign, it makes it really, really easy when you're dealing with a location-based like hex map exploration that it's really obvious how you're going to start putting some of that stuff into Lorelink. But with something like this that is a lot more story-oriented, it's not necessarily obvious. There's a lot of ways I could do this. I could technically utilize the locations feature for this. I think events probably is the thing that I want to do, and we're going to treat each scenario, each section in the instructions here as an event, and then I can tie them all together using LoreLink. But I don't know off the top of my head. I'm going to try an approach, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't, and I might come back and change something. But you've kind of been protected from seeing that process sometimes, at least in my streams. And so we're going to walk through that process just a little bit together. And it also illustrates one thing, which is some of the design ideas that go into building LoreLink in the first place. In trying to make it system agnostic, you add flexibility, but also have to make it a little bit less opinionated. So opinionated systems are often a lot easier to work with because they can coach you and guide you in a specific direction. But when you're dealing with a very loose type of framework like LoreLink is, in order to work with a wide range of different types of games, it has to be a little bit less opinionated, and that means that there puts a little bit more work on you to figure out how you want to kind of wrangle things, how you want to go about figuring things out. So give me 1 second to move a couple windows around, and then we will get started with this first event. Cool. And so I'm going to call these scenes, and I'll just go scene 1. And rather than typing all of the text into LoreLink at this moment, I'm going to stub things out with names and short descriptions and start linking them together, because that's a lot more interesting than watching me type. Also, I don't want to completely duplicate all of the content for you on stream, just for reasons. So are you all having volume issues? Because I have cut the music volume like in half. Let me check something really quickly. I'll move it down just a little bit more, but cool. Yeah, I moved the volume with your first alert 20. I had actually moved the volume down quite a bit, but then you keep saying things. I don't know why the alerts don't have sound. That's super. Oh, I know why. Yeah, never mind. I do know why. I have desktop audio turned off at the moment. I'm going to go ahead and keep it off for a minute because I haven't tested that. So I apologize. No audio for alerts right now. Hopefully audio balance is better for everybody now that I've changed it again. Okay. All right, so I'm going to create Sir Ector's Manor as scene 1. That's kind of where things are taking place. I'm not going to bother creating it as a location. This is not really a location-based game. I mean, it could be. Maybe we'll need to add that, but for right now, it's just a scene that we're going to read. There's a lot of readout long text. Actually, let's go ahead and do one more note in the description. Let's see. Who are the people that are here? All right. There's some people. So let's go ahead and create this. Let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and add this as a location. save that. That also tells me that I can. This is save that. This is the country of Finland. Save that, and then we will go back to the locations, and we're gonna. Oh, that's right. We gotta do that and save it. All right. So I've got a couple locations now. I've got the country, and I've got a location here. I'm gonna go ahead and create a few characters based on this. We have this. A page. We have Kay, the senior squire. We have Arthur. His younger brother. Okay. And then I'm going to associate them because they are related. Oops, go back to my event. There we go. And now we're going to associate a few things here. We will go ahead and put each of them in here. This may be more detail than I actually need. I'm not entirely sure. Oops. I have two tabs open. I can just do the tabs thing. Come into the location here and associate it with the. Oh, trigger. It's a trigger. Yes. The location is the trigger, and that is Sir Rector's Manor. Boom. Save. And now on my events, I have scene 1, Sir Rector's Manor, and I've added some details. And now we can see here that there are related game objects associated with that. So it's going to say go to 2. So let's create scene 2. So the scenario is that they're going to do Quintain practice. So that'll be our short description. And we'll save that. Can't give me a tab until I buy something. Ha ha ha. Or perhaps I'd prefer a Coke to a tab, thanks. Let's see. Let's do this a little bit differently. Come into events, go into scene 2. The trigger is scene 1. Save that. Let's switch to view mode. If I come into scene 1, I can't get to scene 2 from here. Okay. Save. Okay, now scene 2. Come in there. Yeah, I don't really need that. We'll get rid of that. Okay, so in scene 2, they're going to do this practice. About what contained practice is, charging with the lance, etc. Your baited lances, they're normally lethal points dulled with a cloth bundle. Okay. All right, and so there are some options on how to proceed from here. So they've established a test. Your excitement dims when you see that he has brought out a mechanical hobby horse, a four-wheeled contraption with a saddle on top, which must be pulled by two others in order to achieve momentum and speed. Kay seems to register your disappointment as you descend the stairs. What? Did you think I was going to get Bishop out for this? Bishop is the name of Sir Ector's charger, a fine warhorse. Blah, blah, blah. Arthur looks abashed. Clearly, he did not want Kay to mention this part of the deal. Oh, Arthur had promised to do chores for a fortnight in exchange for being able to do this, the hobby horse. So now, in this situation like this, where it may not be clear how to best respond, you may turn to your traits for guidance. As long as the trait is less than 16, you are always free to choose how to act. However, let us see what the dice have to say this time. This is called a decision roll and has you rolling against two usually opposing traits. It is usually obvious which traits to roll against once you become familiar with their definitions. In this case, look to your just and arbitrary traits. Someone with a high value in just has developed an objective sense of right and wrong, while an arbitrary person allows their own biases or self-interest to influence their feelings. Take 1d20 and roll against the value of your just trait. If you roll equal to or less than the value, you are said to chores for Fortnite. Wow. Hilarious. Take 1d20 and roll against the value of your just trait first. If you roll equal to or less than the value, you are said to have succeeded in that trait. Rolling the value of the trait exactly is a critical success, while a 20 is a fumble. If you rolled a critical success, put a check mark next to just on your character sheet. If you fumbled the roll, put a check next to arbitrary instead, as a fumble in one trait is considered an automatic success in the other. If you failed your roll against just, make a second roll against arbitrary. As with just, a critical success here grants a check to arbitrary and a fumble grants the opposite trait. If you failed both rolls, you have to make your own choice. If you choose or succeed at just, go to 3. If you choose or succeeded at arbitrary, go to 4. Okay. So we're going to put in the description. We're going to roll against just, and we're going to save that. And then so and arbitrary is scene 4. Okay, cool. And we're going to save that. I'm going to go ahead and create scene 3. Where your response is, if this comes at the expense of Arthur having to do all your work, okay, I don't want it. So we will do the right thing. Just call that outcome just. Then we will create an event scene 4. call this outcome arbitrary. Save that. And save that. Okay, cool. Sure, now I can go ahead and go to scene 3. From here, we're going to go to 6. So we're going to go ahead and create scene 6. Scene 6. You feel dejected. All right. And then we're going to associate that. And now I'm going to go back to scene 4. And in scene 4, you're going to go to 5. So create an event, scene 5. And what's going on here? The lance lathe from fine ash wood is more than twice your height. You must set it against the wooden hobby horse. Ah, yes. You're going to attempt to charge. And you're going to have the opportunity for some outcomes. Roll, charge. Unopposed. Critical success, go to 7. Success, go to 8. You fail, go to 9. Go to 10 if you fumble, okay? I'm going to save that. And go ahead and create these really quickly. I actually need to create those first, so let's go ahead and create event 7. And this is going to be a critical success. I'm going to create scene 8 as a success. Oops. Scene 9. As a fail, and scene 10 is a fumble. And now I'm going to come back to the top level of events. I'm just going to walk through this something really quickly. So I'm going to go to scene 1. We're going to start here. And from here, I see the people that are involved, and I can tie those into the other events where they're actually applicable, but for now I have these people involved. Here's what's going on. This is the location where I'm at. And I'm going to go to scene 2. And then I'm going to do a roll based on the outcome. I'm either going to go to scene 3, and then I go to scene 6, and then I'll go out from there, go back a couple. But if I instead go to 4, then I'm going to do this. Oh, I forgot to connect them. So let's edit this. Associated trigger C is why you got to check. And go to 7. Eight or 9. 10. But hopefully you can see how this is going to work. So if I come in here, cool. So I'm going to create a session. So we're going to have a first session, create a new session. So this is, this will be one session. It's a solo adventure. Establish the starting point for the SoloQuest. All right, and then inside of here, we're going to go ahead and add a location. We're going to start at Sir Ector's Manor. Okay, now, let's walk through how this is going to work then as a GM. Hey! I'm Melkor. How's it going? Thanks for joining us. Mark has been out on vacation, having a great time. I am sure that on his next stream, he will tell you all about it. Thanks for jumping in. All right, so as the GM, here's what's going to happen. The first place I'm always going to go when I'm going to run an adventure is go to my sessions. I'm going to go to my next available session, and I'm going to go into it. And here, we see that there's really only one thing to do. Let's go to a location. I'm going to go to Sir Ector's Manor. That's where we start. And here, I see that I can go to this event. And then I'm going to read the stuff about the event. Here's what's going to happen. And then I'm going to go to scene 2. Then I'm going to do my roll. I'm going to figure out where to go. And let's say that I rolled an arbitrary. I'm going to go to scene 4. And then I'm going to do another roll. And I'm going to pick one of these outcomes. And we'll go in there. And I'll go to the next one. Example. I might go ahead, just to make things look a little bit nicer, I might go ahead and include like the outcome, scene 10, parenthesis, success, whatever, to make things easier for me to navigate. But you see how easy it is to start clicking through and run this as an individual game for myself. Now, just by clicking around, I don't have to flip pages or whatever. Everything's kind of laid out nice and easy. So this is one way that we can put this kind of solo adventure in to Lorelink. So let me see. Everything basically comes in just like this, but it gets pretty extensive. So I'm gonna peek. Cool. So a bunch of these are gonna go into the same place. So let's go ahead and go back into edit mode and look at a couple more things we can do. So scene 5. Critical success, go to 7. All right, let's go to scene 7. And I'm going to go ahead and, as promised, scene 7, that was critical success. I'm going to go ahead and put that in parentheses here just because that's going to make navigation a lot easier. So now that I've done that, if I go back to, scene 5, did I not? I feel like I maybe forgot to save something. No, I just did the wrong thing completely. That's why. All right, we're going to unlink all of these. Anyway, the thing I was trying to show you is that it automatically updated the name here and it's all correct, but I just realized that I did the wrong thing. So 4 doesn't go here. 4 goes to 5. It's an automatic. And then 5 goes to these different outcomes. So we'll add these back in. So 7, 8, 7, critical success. 8, 9 and 10. Let's go ahead and edit these. To C9. Back to scene 5. Now let's. Scene 10 is fumble. Okay. Perfect. And if I go, let's start back over from scene 1. I go straight to scene 2 for sure, definitely. And then from scene here, scene 3 is just and scene 4 is arbitrary. So we're going to call this just because it makes our navigation a little bit easier. Again, this is what happens when you are kind of figuring things out on the fly. Make decisions based upon the way it starts working. So that looks good. All right, so now we're arbitrary. So now I can come back in here and I'm going to go into 7. From 7, your grip on the lance tightens and suddenly the pull feels like an extension of your own arm. You intuit precisely how to shift your weight and position to put the cloth-covered point of the lance just so. The iron disc rings out loud as a church bell to your ears. You hear Arthur and Alice give cries of delight, and even Kay makes an impressed grunt in spite of himself. You've made a deep impression in your peers. Put a check next to your charge skill and go to 17. So okay, so we're going to save that and we're going to create an event. Scene 17. There we go. And then effectively the exact same thing is going to happen for scene 8. So let's go to scene 8. The difference is that the text is going to be different and everything, so they do need to be separate, but the outcome is effectively the same. So we're going to associate it with scene 17. And we're going to put in some description. Okay, and 9 also is going to take you to, you're not going to do anything, no check mark or anything, but you are still going to go to 17. Now, if you critically fail, we start to go in completely different directions. But for now, let's continue on this path because this seems to be the most interesting path at the moment. So 17. Without warning, here we go. Without warning, the air is split with the blast of a horn. Your petty concerns and squabbles pop like a soap bubble as you all turn to see the Lord of the Manor, Sir Ector, riding up from the village of Cairgay, his household knight, Sir Jonas, riding behind him. Okay, so, new characters. We have Sir Ector. We have Sir Jonas, his household knight. Sir Ector is, I believe, Lord of the Manor. Lore of the Manor. Too much typing lower link. You know what? Whatever. And we got another location in the region. Was indicated to us. So we'll go ahead and fill all those details in. Might be useful later. And if nothing else, it gives us a picture of the way the adventure is starting to go. All right. So in the text, it's providing details about kind of the relationships and how things work. I have word that our King Mawan and his court are to pay us a visit in 2 days' time. Stay with us through the feast of Saint Andrew. Tomorrow we go hunting for boar. Okay, so tomorrow we go hunting for boar. So, creatures. Boar. I know that's going to come up now. So we'll go ahead and create that creature. We're going to, we have another character, right? We have King Moan. And, okay. Then we also, now we have something else. So, let's see. I'm not entirely sure what to call the timeline. You know what? Naming things is hard. Tony, Kermit Flail dog GIF. That is, yeah, exactly. Yeah, words are hard. I couldn't agree more. All right, we're gonna call this realm events for now, for lack of a better word. And we're gonna come in here and create a few things. So, go ahead and create event. Associate event, scene 1. And it's going to happen there. Actually, I've got a better idea. I'm going to do this with some, okay. I'm going to change the name of the session. This is going to be no, it's fine. This is fine. I'm going to go back to the timeline. I'm going to go back to doing this with an event. I think events is probably correct. What we're going to do is associate scene 1. What I'm going to do is figure out Director's Manor. Perfect. And so if I mouse over this, if I click on it, Director's Manor. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is figure out where the boar hunt, where does the boar hunt start? All right, so the boar hunt is 18 effectively. So we're going to create an event. Create event. We're going to call this the boar hunt. And save it. And then we're going to add that event here. Scene 18. That's the boar hunt. And it says specifically, today marks 1 week before the Feast of St. Andrew. All right. So let's see if I can figure out which one of these is the Feast of St. Andrew. As expected, there's all kinds of wild stuff that can happen in the meanwhile. I don't see it in here. Okay, so what we're going to do for now, to keep things moving forward, is I'm going to create an event. I'm going to create a new event, and we're just going to call it Feast of St. Andrew. Okay, and we'll edit that as necessary when the time comes, but we're going to add it here as the Feast of St. Andrew, and it's going to be added to at +7, so we're going to add it to make this 9. Okay, so because we said that this day, the boar hunt, is a week before the Feast of St. Andrew, which is, and then the king arrives. So let's go ahead and add an event for king arrives. So the king is scheduled to arrive here, and we're going to put that on the timeline. So, all right, because it says here that the king arrives 2 days after the boar hunt. So here's our first day encounter. Then the next day is the boar hunt. Oh, no, I misread that. This is two days from the day we're talking to them. So we start the adventure, we do the boar hunt, the king arrives, that's the Feast of St. Andrew. So that's the information that we know off the top of our heads. So I'm basically, as I'm going through, I just want to put these details down because now I have this kind of timeline of events and things that are going on. If at some point I need to, I can create an interval and explain something that's going on. I don't know for sure when the king will leave, but we could go ahead and say king, oops, 3, let's call it 3 to 10. We don't know for sure how long the king is going to stay, but at least through there. And so now we start to paint a picture of what's happening behind the scenes. Hopefully this is making sense. Hopefully you're getting a picture of some of the different tools. So I haven't done a lot of work with timelines in some of my other campaigns because it made a little bit less sense. But in this case, we have a distinct, specific chronology. To me, I'm starting with 1. So this is day 1, day 2, day 3, to day 9. And I'm doing it in terms of day numbers from the beginning, but you could just as easily, if I knew what year it was at the beginning of all this, I could just as easily do years and days and stuff like that, right? A lot of different ways we could do this. And so I've got that, I've got some characters, I've got some locations, right? We have this whole sequence of different events, and a lot of them are connected with each other. I don't have a villain yet, but I do have the creature of the boar. So let's go ahead and get into the boar hunt just a little bit. So scene 18 is the start of the boar hunt. Let's look at that. It marks a week before the Feast of St. Andrew. Sir Ector is here along with Sir Jonas. So I want to associate them. Hunting is Ector's favorite sport. He employs a huntsman. So I need to add a new character. His name is Glenn. He is the huntsman. All right. Glenn is up in the hall at dawn, along with Di, the dog boy. Nope. Okay. And so this is where what we're doing is we're reading through the text and we're turning text into like structured content, things that have relationships, things that mean things to us, to make it easier to link and connect and get around. Okay. So we have a new item. So I'm going to come in here and create an item. This is a boar spear. And there's a description of it. So short description is, I just saw it. There we go. I'll just put a lengthy description. Features a long, sharp iron head and a sturdy metal crosspiece positioned about 18 inches down the shaft and intended to prevent the wild boar from running up the spear and goring the hunter. That sounds like a good thing to do. And so that's an item. And going back to the boar hunt, we will attach that item. Okay. Your character is there as well, of course, because you are there to help pull and carry things. Let's see. Also, a wolfhound. I'm going to create the wolfhound as a character because he has a name. On the wolfhound. Okay. So you read a bunch of stuff, and after all that work, we just go to 19. We create a new event, scene 19. And we will associate scene 19. here. You are all alone. That's the last sentence. You look around, you are all alone. And this is where you're going to roll some stuff. Okay. They have a little text block here that I'm going to read. And actually, I feel like I should probably find a way to put some of these text blocks actually in here. Success and failure. Refer back to this page if you forget what some of the various die roll outcomes mean. In Pendragon, there are two types of rolls, unopposed and opposed. An unopposed roll is a single d20 roll against one of your stats. Your roll will either succeed or fail. If you roll the value of the stat exactly, this is a critical success. If you roll a 20, this is a fumble, unless your stat is also a 20. Opposed rolls involve 2d20 rolls against two statistics. Each roll is read the same as an unopposed roll, then the results are compared. If you succeed and your opponent fails, or if you both succeed but your die roll value is higher, this is a win. In other words, so this is an interesting thing. Let's say that my stat is a... Let's say that we both have a stat that's a 15, right? And I roll a 12 and they roll a 10. I win because mine was higher without going over, basically. If your opponent succeeds but you fail, this is a loss. If you succeed but your opponent's die roll is higher than yours, this is a partial success. If you both fail, this is a mutual failure. If you both roll the same value on the die, or both score a critical success, this is a tie, which causes interesting things to happen. So what we're going to do at the end of this scene, a lot of exciting things going on with regards to the hunt, but in the end you end up alone. You make an opposed roll of your hunting skill versus the boar's avoidance skill of 10. Hey, hold up. We just learned something. So we're going to go into our creatures. We're going to edit the boar. We're going to call this a wild boar. And we're going to give it some details. So the boar has an avoidance skill of 10. Okay. We'll save that. So now in scene 19, we will add the boar in here because the wild boar turns out is very important. Okay, so I'll just type out some of the possible options here. Hunting versus avoidance. So there's a few different options that we can have in here. Sorry, I'm just having trouble holding this whole book in front of me and still looking at the camera. Say critical success. Would be a scene 20. Then if we win, we hold on. Make an opposed roll of your hunting skill versus the boar's avoidance skill. Critical success, check hunting, and go to... Oh, yes, right. Yes. critical success. Yes. Put a check by, the way it was written was a little bit confusing. So this is an interesting thing about Pendragon and the way this book is written. So a check, an opposed roll, like I think of a roll as a skill check, right? And so I was reading it as, if you roll a critical success, check hunting, as look at your hunting skill. That's not what it means. It means put a check mark by your hunting skill, right? There we go. Put check mark by hunting skill. Right. If you win, you go to 35. Put a check mark by your hunting skill. If you manage a partial success, this is scene 37. Fail or lose, go to scene 39, and then fumble, scene 46. Okay, cool. All right, so let's do the fun one. Let's do the critical success. Actually, that adds a lot of complexity. Let's skip that for a second. We're just going to assume you win, and we're going to go to 35. So we'll create event, scene 35. And we're going to call this a success, a win, sorry. And this is specifically everything has gone deathly still. The boar is circling the clearing, eyeing you. You keep your spear up in guard position as you turn, matching the boar's movement. Pause the ground. It means to kill you. Then a great 30 bark and around the wolfhound is bounding into the clearing. In an instant, he is on top of the boar. The boar wheels, trying to get it over on. You cry out, but the noise of galloping hooves overwhelms you. Sir Ector and Kay ride past you to either side, and swiftly their boar spears join Aron in the harrowing the beast. If you were wounded by the boar, go to 36, otherwise go to 53. So presumably you would be wounded by the boar in, let's see. How would I have gotten here in that case? That would happen in the case of getting to 33, 28. Interesting. It happens if you get a critical success, things can go south. Interesting. So this is one of the really weird things about the game, right? So if you roll a critical success, put a check mark next to hunting and go to 20. In 20, though, you end up finding a hateful porcupine instead of a boar. And then you start down, you have to make a mandatory roll against Valorous to determine if you are going to try to take it or not. If you win at Valorous, then you end up fighting the porcupine. And if you and the boar tied, you roll the same result. Well, if you and the boar, hold up. Nope. Hateful porcine eyes. Yes, it's a boar. So the boar gets the drop on you, then you end up fighting it. If you tie, then you end up coming down here and you hit each other. And in which case you can actually end up getting to scene 35 already wounded. So that's fun. It is a word I am not. Is it porcine or porcine? Yeah, it's interesting. Porcine eyes. Yeah, it's very interesting language sometimes. You might need a thesaurus when reading this book. I am just throwing that out there. But glancing at it quickly, I read porcupine, and that clearly was wrong. It's describing the eyes of the boar. All right, so the description then in 35 is that scene 36. Otherwise, you're going to go to 53. And so we're going to save this. We're going to go ahead and create event scene 53. Although that's not necessarily, believe it or not, the most interesting outcome, because the most interesting outcome often is the bad ones, the quote bad ones, because then more exciting things can happen. So I'm going to go ahead and take us to scene 53, but just for fun, if we were to go to 36 instead, Sir Ector examines your wounds, a look of concern knitting his weathered features. Then you learn about healing and how healing works. You can go to you might end up. Well, my guess is you probably in one of the branches you might end up getting nursed back to health. Yeah, probably. This is actually really well done. There's a lot of different branches and everything, but like a lot of these types of things, the thing about Choose Your Own Adventure, you're doing a lot of flipping around, looking through the book. So getting it all into Lorelink is going to make running it so much faster. Porcine, soft sea. See, that makes sense. Like, but I think if it was porcupine, it's with a hard C, and pork is a hard sound, so I don't know. Anyway, my first thought was porcine, but obviously in most cases in English it would be porcine. That makes sense. Makes sense that would be correct. Can't we just say pig eyes and call it a day? All right, 53. That's where we're going. We're going to 53. And what happened? Oh yeah. The boar lies dead. That's the end. We killed the boar. And then we go to 54, and then we go to 55, and then we go to 56. Oh my goodness. And that's where the king approaches in 55. So 55 56 is where the king actually shows up. So let's go to, did I put, all right. So we're going to go to this. Scene 56 and give that a short description of King Mullen arrives, because now I know what number that is. And because we had put that in the timeline, let's go to our timeline of realm events, and we'll note that now when I click on this, scene 56, King Mullen arrives. Scene 18, boar hunt is where we start the boar hunt. Scene 1 is the manor. And so if I need to jump to a specific point, I can do so. Feast of St. Andrew, still don't know about that. When the king arrives, you're going to roll courtesy. Oh, interesting. If your lazy trait had succeeded earlier, your skill is at a -5 due to Kay calling you a layabout. So this is an interesting thing about the checkmark system, right? You're going to, let's see if I can, let me do something really quickly. All right, so somewhere in here we have the sample character sheet. It's a smaller version of the full character sheet, but okay. So you see these different traits, and the checkbox is next to everything, right? The interesting thing is you check it when you succeed or critically succeed, right? But there's only room for one check mark. And if it's checked, that's good for you later on during the leveling up process, because over the winter, you're going to be able to attempt to convert those check marks into a boost to your skill or an adjustment to your trait. But as we're seeing here in scene 56, potentially you can end up getting penalized for an earlier success. So for example, if you succeeded in a lazy trait earlier, you would have put a check mark next to it. That tells you that I've succeeded at that at some point. Now we're saying that, hey, you're going to get a -5 to your courtesy roll if you're lazy. So sorry, you succeeded at a roll earlier, now you get penalized. But it's very dynamic, and the things that you do earlier can in fact impact things that happen later. And the mechanic is simple, straightforward, it's not complex, but the fact that the way the story progresses can change the later outcome of the story, to me, is just a fun system. Like, I really enjoy it. So I think that we're probably going to call it here in just a minute. I would be more than happy to take any questions or talk a little bit more about Pendragon if anybody is interested. One of the things that I might do, eventually I would love to run Pendragon on stream, but since this is a SoloQuest adventure, you know what I might do is actually finish building out this SoloQuest in Lorelink and then just run it live on stream on my own sometime. I think that could be pretty fun. We've actually never done a solo adventure before on any of our streams, so that would be pretty interesting to do. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of typing that has to happen, but it could be a lot of fun to really introduce the system. And quite frankly, once I've got this into Lorelink, any of the other folks on the team could run through it too if they wanted to. Might be pretty interesting to get a feel for how this works. So in this, just for fun, I have the whole starter box here. Let's see. So I've got book 1, which is this adventure. I have a summary of the things that are in this box. So we have book 1, book 2, The Fabled Realm. This book, intended for game masters and players alike, goes into further detail in the game setting and core mechanics. Then, so this is actually kind of like the GM/players manual. Again, simplified form because this is just the starter set. And then book 3 is the actual sword campaign, a detailed 5-year campaign that takes the player knights through the most important early events of the Boy King's reign. So that's a kind of a simple getting started adventure. We have some appendices. tournaments, battle, how to run a battle, so details on tournaments and battle. Appendix C, overland movement, so kind of a summary sheet on that. Appendix D, visiting a foreign court, what happens when you go abroad. We have we have some we have a like short abbreviated cards for different NPCs or characters we could run into. So, and there's also one for enemy commander, enemy bodyguards, Clash of Champions. We've got Knights of Cornwall, Knights of Gore. And so they have stats on one side, they have a little bit of a description on the other side. And so like the commander, the bodyguards have information about how to fight the commander. Then there's capture the banner, what happens, oh, you've got guards. So these are just double-sided cards, lots of information on them to make things a little bit easier and quicker. Then we have character sheets for certain pre-builts. So there's one pre-built character, another pre-built character. We have Dame Lionel, another pre-built character. So we have a whole bunch of ready to roll with characters. And these sheets are really cool because they have picture on the front. On the back, you have the coat of arms and a place for you to record history and events, a little bit of a summary about them, and some of their history. And then as you open it up, it has your traits, your skills, your passions, details about your equipment and your horses and everything on the inside. So it's a really neat way to do a character sheet. It's more than just a simple one-pager. So I've got a whole bunch of these in the bottom, which is fantastic. I'm really excited about that. And they also include a little bag of dice. So there's a single D20 and 6 D6 in the box. So put all this back in. And yeah, I think I'll go ahead and do that. So I'll do this as a series. I'll try to do some more of the data entry kind of on my own. I don't know that there's a ton more sophisticated stuff to gain value out of another planning stream, but we might do another planning stream. We'll see. But I think it'd be a lot of fun to go ahead and run through a solo adventure on stream with everybody. So I will do that at some point. Keep an eye on everything. Hey, nobody's going to turn their nose up at included dice, you know? Dice are awesome. So I believe that next Tuesday, Mark will be back, and we will be doing another Lore Link stream next Tuesday at the usually scheduled time. So thanks so much for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Had fun kind of getting started. I've been, like I said, I've had this for a year. And I just haven't had a chance to break it open or get into it. So I'm glad this gave me an excuse to do it. I really love Pendragon, so I'm kind of excited to put this together and play it. So thanks so much, and have yourself a good night.